Caught in the act. It's become an all too common occurrence. Vehicles stolen from driveways in the middle of the night while their owners are asleep.
In this case, the culprits were scared off. The vehicle wasn't taken, but many car owners across the GTA haven't been so lucky. Good evening. Toronto police announced a number of arrests after an operation they dubbed Project Paranoid.
But for many car owners, worrying about vehicle theft isn't being paranoid. It's a daily reality. CTV's Beth McDonnell is live tonight with more. Beth.
Michelle, this haul of stolen vehicles recovered by Toronto police was major. 48 vehicles, 7 people arrested, 150 charges. And the video we're about to show you reveals some of the tricks suspects use to steal your vehicle. Imagine waking up to a theft in progress. The owners of this 2023 Jeep Wrangler hybrid did a few weeks ago. It's a job they say involved 3 people, one scoping out the SUV after midnight before 2 other suspects returned 3 hours later. One on standby looking, the other tampering under the hood, the owners say, to unplug the horn and radio before drilling a hole on the passenger side and messing with wires in the glove box. When the suspects see one of the owners in the window, they get spooked and start running at the same time as police arrive. This just another example of the rampant efforts underway in the city to steal vehicles.
We're up significantly in Toronto in terms of the carjacking and the home invasions for the key fobs.
While violent vehicle thefts are up in Toronto, Superintendent Steve Watt says it's still a small percentage, while police efforts to stop thieves are also ramping up, like these high-end vehicles on display from recent investigations that led to the recovery of 48 vehicles, worth close to $4 million. Police say vehicle theft is one of the main revenue generators for organized crime and is even being used to fund terrorism around the world. The most commonly stolen vehicles remain higher-end SUVs and trucks. In Ontario, the costs of vehicle theft are staggering. The nonprofit investigative firm Equite Association says in 2022 there were $700 million in vehicle theft insurance claims, going up in 2023 to $1 billion. It has started a partnership with Toronto Police to share data and expertise.
You can learn a lot from what the trends and patterns are to determine what vehicles are up and coming to being stolen, what areas they're being stolen is.
Watt says the thefts are a complex problem. Some of the 48 vehicles were recovered in a Burlington shipper, others with a search warrant and purchased undercover, others intercepted by the CBSA in Toronto and Montreal. He recommends keeping vehicles in a garage, having an immobilizer installed, using the club, and multiple AirTags.
They might find the first one, they think they're good. But then they're not. We can still track that, and we have good success. We get probably over half of our vehicles back.
The owners of the Jeep Wrangler say they didn't have AirTags and are thankful it didn't get stolen. They're now researching better ways to protect their property. Police arrested 2 people in connection with the attempted theft of that Jeep. A vehicle is stolen in Canada every 5 minutes. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Back to Michelle and Nathan.
Thank you, Beth. Now to the latest on the Baltimore bridge collapse. U.S. investigators have found the black box of the massive cargo ship that collided with the structure early Tuesday morning.
6 construction workers were on the bridge at the time, and as CTV's Adrian Gobriel tells us, is now a recovery operation.
This surreal scene remains intact, though the lives of multiple families have been completely shattered.
My heart is broken for these families, and we made a commitment to them that I said we would use every resource, air, land, and sea, for the search and rescue. And now that we've transitioned into a recovery mission, my promise to them is the same.
According to officials, rescue crews are using sonar to guide divers, who are essentially swimming blind, while using their hands to try and identify debris, vehicles, and any victims.
When you look out over the water, what goes through your mind?
Well, it's horrible for the state, horrible for the country. It's just the lives that are going to be affected.
Rhett Warren has driven across the Francis Scott Key Bridge each Saturday for years to visit his mother. Like so many, he's still trying to process what has taken place.
You know, it's a foggy day, but to see that the bridge is not there is a very eerie feeling.
The bridge is gone. Holy.
The National Transportation Safety Board is leading the investigation into exactly what led to the deadly, devastating chain of events.
We will be looking for any sort of electronics, documentation. We will want to take pictures. We will want to look at the engine room of the vessel.
The NTSB has also obtained a vital piece of evidence, the ship's data recorder. Similar to a black box following a plane crash, it will be analyzed and play a major role in what is now an active federal investigation.
And CTV's Adrian Gabriel joins us live from Baltimore tonight. Adrian, there's two separate operations underway. Let's begin with the search and recovery. What's the latest there?
Now, what we're hearing actually right now from the governor is holding a press conference, and he's talking about the recovery efforts which are underway. As we've just mentioned, divers were in the water behind me at 6 a.m. this morning, and he says that this is a continuation of their efforts to try and bring closure to these families. What began as a search and rescue operation is now really a search for closure. We've been hearing some reports from local media that potentially some of the 6 individuals who are presumed dead, that they may have been found, though we're still keeping an ear on that press conference. We haven't heard that confirmation yet from the governor's office, but that is what we are expecting, if not today, in the days ahead. We know that one of the individuals who is missing is a father of 3. Another is a father of 2. There's Mexican nationals. All of these individuals are believed to be construction workers that were working on the Key Bridge, filling potholes when the ship collided with the bridge.
And we also know an investigation into what took place is now actively taking place. What have you heard?
Yes, the NTSB has been able to board the ship. As we mentioned, they were able to get that recording off, and they're going to be looking at multiple things when they listen to that recording and when they analyze the data. They're going to be wanting to see if there was anything that could have been done to slow down the ship. Did it drop its anchor? Did it drop its anchor in time? We know that it was traveling at about 8 knots, which is about 15 kilometers an hour, which is a significant speed for a vessel of this size. The Dali, the ship, is 300 meters long. To put that in perspective for our viewers, if we were to stand it upright, it would be nearly as tall as New York's Empire State Building. So you can imagine the force that it hit that bridge with. The NTSB is going to be holding an update tonight at 8 p.m., and we'll be keeping a close ear on that.
For sure. CTV's Adrian Gabriel in Baltimore. Thank you.
More news in a moment, but first, a look at the weather here at home. A live look of at our city tonight. Unsettled at times today, but there were some lovely moments. Not much in the way of sun at this hour. Jessica Smith is here with a look at the current conditions. Are you seeing any rain left?
There's a few trickles into the east end of the city, but the bulk of this system really has pushed off. So areas like east of Pickering, say, they're looking at still a few light showers out towards Ottawa as well. For us here in the downtown core, generally done. We're just looking at some cloud cover out there as we wrap up our day, but a pretty gusty southwesterly wind with gusts closer to 40 kilometers an hour as we head into the early part of our evening. Temperature-wise, though, still quite mild. Even warmer still out towards Ottawa. They're sitting at 12 degrees. For us here in and around the Golden Horseshoe, between about 5 and 8 degrees. Through the island in Pearson, it's cloudy but mild, but again, a gustier wind. Tonight, we're staying right on par for that seasonal mark just about. And as we get into the end of the week, it gets really, really nice. Coming up, a full look at your long-range forecast and a preview of what you can expect for the Easter weekend. But right now, back over to Nathan.
Thank you, Jess. Still ahead tonight, should garbage collection west of Yonge Street stay private? More than a decade after the city contracted out waste collection on the west side of the city. There are now new calls to throw that plan in the trash.
At the trial of Umar Zameer, testimony continued from officers who were on the scene the night Constable Jeffrey Northrup was killed.
Those officers have been testifying about the minutes leading up to the fatal collision. But today, Zameer's lawyers showed the jury video that he claims counters what they've been told. CTV John Woodward was in court and joins us live tonight with more. John.
Nathan, the police witnesses have stuck mostly to one story, that Officer Northrup was standing, his arms out, his badge in his hand, as he was hit head-on by the BMW driven by Umar Zameer. But then Zameer's lawyer showed them video that challenged that.
It's grainy video entered as an exhibit at Toronto Superior Court, but what it shows could be crucial to the case against Umar Zameer. Also, what it doesn't show. This week, Constable Tony Correa testified he was driving an unmarked police car in the parkade under Nathan Phillips Square and saw Constable Jeffrey Northrup be run over by Zamir's BMW with his own eyes. He testified the car moved forward towards their car, turned as it reversed, and accelerated into Northrup. He said his hands hit the hood. He goes up in the air. He bounces off the hood of the car. He lands forward onto the floor. Correa gave chase, slamming into that BMW, and he and his partner arrested Zamir at gunpoint, sending other drivers fleeing through the city parkade's gate arms. Zamir is accused of first-degree murder. He's pleaded not guilty, saying he was there with his family and panicked, thinking he was being robbed by people who turned out to be plainclothes police officers. The murder a tragic accident. In cross-examination, Zamir's lawyer, Nader Hassan, asked Correa, "Do you know what else was there? A camera." "I wasn't aware of that," he responded. Hassan took Constable Correa through this video. That's Zamir's car with the lights on. It moves forward, then reverses, and then turns to leave the parkade. You can see Sergeant Lisa Forbes rush to help Northrup, who is on the ground. Hassan said, "We see her, we don't see Officer Northrup at all." "The video is choppy," responded Correa. "You don't see any of those things, sir, because this is something you have made up," Nader pressed. "That is what I observed that night," Correa said. Hassan then showed this photo of the front of Zamir's BMW, pointing out there's no damage consistent with an impact of hitting a 300-pound police officer. In re-examination, the Crown pointed out that the video doesn't show parts of the BMW's movements. It's not contested that Northrup was killed that night by the BMW. The question the jury could be wrestling with is, when exactly was he hit, when the car was going forwards or backwards, and what does that say about the driver, Zamir's intent?
We also heard testimony from two people in those cars that fled through those gate arms, both of them saying they were scared when they saw those undercover officers come out, guns drawn, and under questioning from Zamir's lawyer, said they didn't believe anyone in the parkade that night was a police officer. Reporting live, I'm John Woodward. Back to you.
Thank you, John. We're learning more about a crash in Pickering this week that has left two men fighting for their lives in hospital. Yesterday at around 7:30 in the morning, Durham Regional Police responded to Lake Ridge Road north of Myrtle Road West. They say a single vehicle lost control, went off the roadway into a heavily wooded area. They now believe this crash occurred several hours earlier on Monday night around 11 p.m., but the driver and passenger were unable to call for help during that period. Once emergency crews arrived, they were airlifted to a trauma center where they remain in critical condition. This crash is still under investigation.
Toronto police say a woman was assaulted this morning by a complete stranger. It happened in Etobicoke on a transit vehicle. Just after 5:20 a.m., police were called to Islington and the Queensway. They were told a man had assaulted a woman with a piece of wood or a stick while on a bus. The victim suffered serious non-life-threatening injuries, while the suspect fled. Investigators say the pair did not know each other. The TTC says it's assisting police with the investigation, and its thoughts are with the victim.
Meantime, Toronto police are asking for your help in identifying this suspect. They say he was making a food delivery in the York and Bremner area Friday night when he allegedly sexually assaulted a victim in the elevator. Investigators believe the assault was random. If you recognize him, you're asked to contact detectives or Crime Stoppers.
The deadline is approaching for Ontario to get a large cash infusion from the federal government for affordable housing.
Millions on the line. The Fed saying Ontario hasn't met its target and won't get the money if it doesn't. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris is live with those details tonight. Siobhan.
Well, the deadline is Sunday, so really not a lot of time to go here with the holiday weekend approaching. The province really wants some credit here for the work it's been doing to refurbish old affordable housing units, but the federal government says they're not doing nearly enough. With the deadline for Ontario to qualify for big cash for affordable housing a few days away, the federal housing minister is drawing a line in the sand.
I don't think it's responsible for me to transfer funding for the purpose of home building for homes that are never going to be built.
On the line, $357 million. The province nowhere close to its target of nearly 20,000 homes by 2028. What's actually being built?
1,100 affordable units since 2018. We are so far behind. We are letting Ontarians down.
Ontario has tweaked its plans, but it's not enough.
If there is not a clear path for the government of Ontario to satisfy the entirety of the commitment that they had agreed to with eyes wide open, then they should not expect to receive the full amount of money.
The provincial housing minister explains Ontario has been dedicating itself to refreshing decades-old affordable units.
2 weeks before they're supposed to fund their portion, 2 weeks before a massive carbon tax, then he has a change of heart and decides to change the yardsticks.
Local leaders are deeply concerned about not having access to this funding. The Association of Municipalities of Ontario warns withholding it would only exacerbate the housing crisis. The president of AMO writes to Sean Fraser, "We need to fundamentally rethink the way we fund community housing in Ontario and Canada." But the answer is not unexpected funding cuts in the middle of a homelessness crisis. Today, Fraser emphasized a commitment to affordable housing.
What we're trying to discern over the next few days as we approach the deadline before that funding lapses is whether we're going to be able to do it with the government of Ontario as a partner or whether the federal government's going to have to do it on its own.
Now, today, Liberal John Fraser said that what Paul Calandra is doing is not meeting the very thing he's asked municipal leaders in Ontario to do: come up with a plan to deliver housing and act on it. At Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. I'll send it back to Nathan and Michelle.
Thank you, Siobhan. And there's more on the housing issue still to come tonight, as the federal government reveals rental help is on the way for millions of Canadians. That story later on CTV News at 6.
It was an issue championed by a former mayor, privatizing waste collection west of Yonge Street.
But now, more than a decade later, some are calling on the current mayor to toss that plan in the garbage and put West Side waste collection back in the hands of city employees. CTV's Natalie Johnson is live tonight to explain. Natalie.
Well, Nathan, the union representing those city workers is eyeing an opportunity with the new mayor to make it clear that they want public pickup citywide. The current curbside collection contract expires in 2026, but city staff say it's not realistic to think that it could all be done in-house that soon. During curbside collection near Jane and Bloor today, many residents say they don't care who collects their trash so long as it's picked up.
Everyone on the street that I'm on is quite happy having their recycling and garbage picked up.
They're on time most times. They're easy to work around as well.
But at City Hall, there was renewed talk of whether pickup stays private west of Yonge.
We're going to save millions of dollars.
12 years after Rob Ford's administration contracted it out.
In the long run, I think we should look at bringing it back in-house because our city workers basically can do the job just as well or better as the private sector, and you have more control.
The union representing city solid waste workers who do the pickup east of Yonge is already making its case.
Our members are here to provide a service for the residents in the city they live, work, and play in, and we want them to be proud of their work. And we don't find that the same with contractors that have consolidated these contracts.
The current curbside collection contract ends in 2026, but staff have stressed that the city no longer has the land, truck, and workers to be able to take on the task by then.
It's not feasible a year and a half from now because there's no place to park all the garbage trucks. What staff have said is that it might be possible the next go-round, when the next time the contract is renewed, if the city wants to spend the money to buy the land where we could put all the trucks.
We understand the challenges that the city's facing, and that's why we're willing to work with them to address those. And, we understand the steps that need to be taken, but what we're saying is that we should look at that now, and those steps should be starting from now.
The union optimistic that a new administration might provide an opportunity to revisit the pickup. They met with the mayor yesterday. Olivia Chow's office telling CTV News Today the mayor's goal is to deliver the best and highest quality garbage collection with the cleanest streets in the most cost-effective manner.
I think there's an appetite to bring it back in-house. I think we've had it contracted out for too long, and I think the tide is starting to turn.
City staff are recommending a competitive procurement process for the 2026 contract. But the final call is up to council next month when they sit down to talk trash. City staff, meanwhile, will be conducting a more thorough analysis of cost and customer service levels. Many councillors here saying they want to see the price tag before making any promises. Reporting live at City Hall, I'm Natalie Johnson. Michelle, over to you.
Thank you, Natalie. Sparks flew at a House of Commons committee meeting today. The meeting was for premiers opposed to the federal carbon tax increase to speak out.
This is one of the policies, and they are stacking, that is making life more unaffordable for not only Saskatchewan residents, but all Canadians.
Saskatchewan's Scott Moe addressed the Government Operations and Estimates Committee today, later followed by New Brunswick's Blaine Higgs and potentially others tomorrow. Those Conservative premiers had asked to appear before the Liberal-led House Finance Committee to express their concerns. When that didn't happen, Conservative MP Kelly McCauley invited the premiers to the committee he chairs. Liberal MPs raised points of order, questioning how and why the meeting came together without more discussion.
The precedent that you are setting, Mr. Chair, is that I can tell you your side will be pissed off with us because we'll call meetings at our disposal and your side will not be happy with us. If that's the way you want to set the precedents of this committee, I'm telling you, we're going to challenge you.
Okay. That is the chair's prerogative to call a meeting if he wishes.
The carbon tax will increase to $80 per ton of carbon emissions on April 1st, with gas and heating bills likely to rise. After premiers asked him to pause the hike, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau sent an open letter to them last night defending the policy and arguing most Canadians get more back in rebates than they pay towards the carbon tax. He added, however, we continue to remain open to proposals for credible systems to price pollution that reflect the unique challenges of your regions and meet the national benchmark.
The RCMP have released a progress report on their response to the inquiry into the 2020 mass shooting in Nova Scotia that killed 22 people. The Mounties say their new strategy will ensure meaningful change and an improved overall approach to crisis management. The RCMP commissioner admitted the National Force is aware its previous responses to other reviews have not always been fulsome. The Mass Casualty Commission handed down 130 recommendations to improve public safety. This morning, the commissioner said he's pleased with the force's progress so far.
First, we have been improving our overall approach to managing crisis, which spans 29 recommendations. Recognizing the importance of keeping Canadians informed about a threat to their safety, part of our work has been to rethink how we communicate during incidents. We now rely heavily on Alert Ready. We have changed our national policies, updated our training, and will continue to monitor and strengthen them as needed and expected.
Today's report comes 3 months after the RCMP's self-imposed deadline passed and almost a year after the public inquiry released its final report.
As ceasefire talks between Israel and Hamas appear to break off, the death toll in Gaza continues to rise.
Israel bombed at least 3 homes in the southern city of Rafah overnight, reportedly killing 11 people from one family. The bombings are raising fears a threatened Israeli ground assault on Rafah could start soon. The United States and other allies have urged Israel not to go ahead with the plan, with Palestinians displaced from across the Gaza Strip seeking shelter there, and as the civilian death toll mounts. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the military push will go ahead. He also canceled a planned delegation to Washington after the U.S. allowed a ceasefire resolution to pass at the United Nations Security Council.
And the worst part about it, I think the bad thing about the U.S. decision in the United Nations Security Council was that it encouraged Hamas to take a hard line and to believe that international pressure will prevent Israel from freeing the hostages and destroying Hamas.
This comes as aid organizations sound the alarm over the amount of humanitarian aid making its way into Gaza, warning widespread famine is becoming increasingly likely. And there were scenes of mourning in Lebanon after an Israeli airstrike on a paramedic center linked to a Sunni Muslim group. 7 people were killed. Local reports identified them as emergency workers. Israel said it struck a military building and killed several militants. Lebanese militant group Hezbollah responded with a barrage of rockets on northern Israel today, killing a man in his 20s.
At least 5 people are dead after a bus went off the highway this morning in Germany. Police say the Flixbus was traveling from Berlin to Switzerland when it crashed onto its side near Leipzig at around 3:45 a.m. local time. There was a massive response by emergency crews who said more than 20 others were hurt among the 53 passengers and 2 drivers on board. The cause of this crash is still under investigation.
The death toll from a terror attack on a Moscow area concert hall has risen to 140. Russian officials say 1 more person died in hospital as people continue to place tributes outside the venue. Officials say 80 people remain in hospital, while hundreds of others are recovering from injuries at home. An Islamic State affiliate claimed responsibility for the attack. Russia has tried to link Ukraine to the incident, something Kyiv has strongly denied.
Lawmakers in Thailand have passed a marriage equality bill. It is a major step toward legalizing same-sex marriages. Thailand's lower house of parliament overwhelmingly passed the bill, which now goes to the Senate for endorsement. If it becomes law, Thailand would become the third territory in Asia to legalize same-sex unions.
Pope Francis appears to be in better health. He read out the entire text for his weekly audience instead of delegating that duty to one of his aides, as he's done several times in recent weeks.
Cari fratelli e sorelle, buongiorno.
The 87-year-old pontiff's health had been a growing concern in recent weeks. Today, Francis made fresh appeals for peace in Ukraine and the Middle East. He's expected to preside over a number of religious services leading up to Easter Sunday.
New figures from Statistics Canada show the population grew faster last year than it has at any point since the 1950s. As of January 1st, Canada's population rounded out to about 40.8 million people. That was an increase of about 1.3 million from the year before. That 3.2% growth rate was the fastest since 1957. The majority of the increase was among temporary residents, a group that includes international students. The federal government has pledged to cap those arrivals, citing housing shortages and other concerns.
Coming up, the dark side of the highly anticipated solar spectacle. A local scientist warns of a potential surge in traffic fatalities during solar eclipses. The fascinating new research still ahead.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, the Ontario government has announced changes are coming to auto insurance, but will they be enough to lower your car insurance premiums? It could mean you'll soon have more choices to pick and choose your coverage. I'll have the latest details. That's just ahead.
And as we settle into the last few days of March, we're going to be holding on to a seasonal trend. Although we do see some cooler overnight lows over the next few days, our daytime highs pretty spot on for where we should be for this time of year. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast. And stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
Ontario drivers pay some of the highest auto insurance premiums in the country, and that is especially true if you live here in the GTA.
In yesterday's budget, the government announced plans for auto insurance reforms, but will it mean you might finally save some money? Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat.
Nathan and Michelle, the province announced more funds to crack down on car theft because it's one of the main reasons rates are going up. But it also wants drivers to have more choice when they renew their policy, so you aren't paying for coverage you already have. The average annual cost for car insurance in Toronto is about $2,000 a year. There have been many promises to lower rates over the past decade without success. Now the province has introduced reforms it says could lead to lower premiums.
And we're moving forward with auto insurance reforms that would provide more choice and flexibility to drivers in order to keep their premiums more affordable.
Many of the details still have to be worked out, but the insurance industry says currently many drivers have a one-size-fits-all policy, and they could benefit by choosing coverage tailored to their needs.
What we do know is that the industry absolutely welcomes the introduction, the first step toward giving drivers more control and more choice over their auto insurance.
I would say these are good changes. It's a good start.
FAIR, an association of victims for accident insurance reform, says if drivers can choose their coverage, they could avoid duplicating insurance they already have through their workplace.
I think people have been paying double for insurance coverage, really, because a lot of people do have coverage at work, so they don't get to use the auto insurance that they're paying for.
Auto theft is the main driver of insurance hikes, with a 329% increase over a 4-year period. The province is spending $46 million to purchase 4 helicopters to crack down on car thieves and wants more action from Ottawa to help stop them.
I would just say to Ottawa, let's work together so when the cars get into those containers in the Port of Montreal, let's make sure we're not giving an outlet for criminals to get these cars out of Canada.
And there is a concern if drivers choose their own coverage, they may take less insurance to try and save money. If they do and get in an accident, they may not have the coverage they thought when they need it most. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
All right, to the forecast. We did have some sunshine today, which was nice to see. Hopefully it lasts.
We are embarking on quite a lovely stretch, I think, for this time of year. And of course, it's just in time for the long weekend. This is great.
It was a rocky road getting here, right? We saw a little bit of snow, then a little bit of rain. Temperatures have gone up and down. It's been quite the roller coaster in March, but that is typical for this time of year. But as we settle in towards the weekend, it is going to be fantastic. A nice way to kind of wrap things up as we settle in towards the last few days of the month. Weather is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train. A few peaks of sunshine early on today. Short-lived, though, and we've seen some cloud cover roll in this afternoon and still watching for a few scattered showers through parts of eastern Ontario out towards, say, Ottawa way. But for the most part, it's been a really, really nice kind of second half to the day, despite not seeing a ton of sunshine. We're sitting at 5 now here in the city. It's cooled down a little. 4 through Windsor, up through Timmins, still up +1. Moosonee still up +4. So we're holding on to some warmer weather as we wrap up the day, thanks to a little bit of a ridge in the jet stream, bringing some warmer air from the south up towards us. Tonight dropping down to the freezing mark, so hovering around where we should be. Still watching for those lingering showers, kind of Peterborough and east out towards Kingston and Ottawa. But overall, the night, not so bad. Getting into the day tomorrow, very seasonal. We're kind of wrapping up these last few days of March and heading into what is going to be a very busy weekend with a really beautiful forecast, great for spending some time outdoors, and almost everybody right on par for seasonal. The bulk of that low that brought the rain is in towards Hudson Bay, moving north and east. Behind it, a bit of a trough that will bring some more snow to northern Ontario, but for the most part, the GTA, the downtown core remaining nice and dry. And as we head into the day tomorrow, beautiful, all things considered. We'll see lots of sunshine to get the day started tomorrow, so pack the sunglasses now. You will need them for that morning and evening commute. We are watching for a little more cloud cover as we get into the day on Friday, but overall, really not that bad. Some pretty high level clouds, so not a completely cloudy day. As we step in towards the weekend, it is going to get quite nice out there. I know a lot of folks probably traveling, hitting the road, maybe going to visit family, or maybe you're staying put. Regardless, a fantastic, time to spend some time outdoors. Temperature-wise, as we head in towards our evening tomorrow, a little cooler, but again, we're hovering around that seasonal mark for the first time in a little while. We've been above seasonal for quite some time. Getting in towards our Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just a whole lot of sunshine out there. Great for the Easter weekend. Getting into Monday, some folks are back to work, back to school, some aren't. Regardless, a really beautiful way to start off a brand new week and kick off the month of April. We're looking at a decent amount of sunshine, some cloud cover as we head in towards Tuesday, Wednesday, watching for some light showers. But overall, as we step in towards that first full week of April, towards that eclipse, the forecast looking not so bad. I'll send things over to Michelle.
Thank you, Jess. Also tonight, a made-in-Ontario cure for HIV could be on the horizon. Researchers at Western develop an injection that has the potential to kill the virus hiding dormant inside cells.
I'm skipping the group chat for a bit. Sorry.
Invest in yourself. No apologies necessary. Gear up at sportcheck.ca.
I thought we stopped eating dairy.
We did. This is dairy-free Basil plant butter. Tastes like dairy butter, but there's no cow needed.
Skip the cow, not the taste.
What if we told you there's a place where it's all happening? And what if we told you you already live here?
Nita,
If he's this good with numbers, we should get him his own portfolio.
investment plan or a
What if chemistry is his thing, just like math, and our kitchen becomes his lab?
insurance plan? We do both.
Losers can be winners. And winners, losers. There's more to life than winning or losing, and more to OLG. Every play is a winning one. 100% of profits go back to communities like yours. Bring home the win.
Gagnant.
Step into the world of Cirque du Soleil Echo under the Big Top in Toronto. Echo opens May 8th at Humber Yards, Lakeshore Boulevard West. Echo thanks its presenting partner Sun Life. Buy tickets at cirquedusoleil.com.
As the world's population grows, so does the need for resources like potash to support sustainable food production. This is why BHP is building one of the world's most sustainable potash mines in Canada. Essential resources responsibly produced. This is what BHP has committed to Canada. The future is clear. It's happening now at BHP, a future resources company.
Closed captioning of this program is brought to you in part by KFC Tuesdays. 2 pieces of finger-licking good seasoned chicken for only $2.99.
More than likely, you know about the dangers of viewing the upcoming solar eclipse without approved eyewear.
But as our health reporter Pauline Chan tells us tonight, according to research from Sunnybrook, there are other serious hazards associated with eclipse viewing.
We based our research on the last major solar eclipse in North America, which was on August 21st of 2017. And we looked at all the traffic crashes occurring on that day, and then compared it to control days exactly 1 week earlier and 1 week later.
And Dr. Dawn Rettelmeyer says there was a significant jump in traffic fatalities associated with the eclipse.
A 31% increase in risk. So that amounts to about 42 extra fatalities compared to a standard day.
He says the volume of traffic with such a rare event is a large part of the problem.
There's also an element of travel on unfamiliar pathways, a possibility of distraction and fatigue in the aftermath of a major celestial event. There's also some individuals who get inebriated or intoxicated from eclipse-related festivals, as well as a few people who view the eclipse from unsafe roadside locations.
And while fatalities and a presumed increase in crashes rose in the hours leading up to the eclipse, the biggest effect was seen about 4 hours after, prompting Rettelmeyer to warn Ontario drivers to be most careful around 7 p.m. on April 8th.
For Ontario, the eclipse will peak at around 3:20 in the afternoon, so about 4 hours afterwards. Respect the speed limits. Signal your turns, allow more headway, always use a seatbelt, never drive drunk. It seems so banal when I mention those, and yet these tactics merit reinforcement every day of the year.
The increase in car fatalities extends to about a day and a half after the eclipse. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Canada's top doctors raising concerns over the recent increase in measles cases. The Public Health Agency of Canada says it's aware of 40 measles cases to date this year across the country. That's already more than triple 2023's total. Dr. Theresa Tam said travel-linked measles infections will continue to climb and could prompt local outbreaks of the highly contagious virus. She said she's particularly concerned over waning vaccination levels among school-aged children and said protection is the key to stopping the spread and preventing severe illness.
Researchers at Western University in London say they believe they're one step closer to a cure for HIV.
We've had this discovery that we're able to drive out the virus 100 times more efficiently than anything that's been attempted before.
This team of researchers is part of an international team working on the project, which has developed an HIV-like particle intervention. This intervention, delivered by a needle, similar to a flu shot, would effectively kill off the remaining virus left behind after patients take current HIV treatment drugs. The treatment has been tested on blood samples from people on long-term HIV treatment drugs in Uganda, as well as Canada and the U.S.
We determined that it actually takes, surprisingly, the virus that a person is infected with in a dead form, so it can't cause any harm. But that's enough to tease the immune system, to tickle it, and specifically tickle the cells that have the remnant HIV in it.
This new intervention treatment is set for human trials later this year. Currently, there are some 30 million people globally who are receiving lifelong treatments to suppress the virus.
They say you're as young as you feel, and a pair of new studies suggest you may feel much younger if you get enough sleep. Researchers at Stockholm University studied hundreds of people's sleep patterns and how young they felt compared to their calendar age. After only 4 hours of sleep for 2 nights in a row, people on average felt 4.4 years older. After 2 nights of 9 hours of sleep, they felt slightly younger than their calendar age. The authors say the findings show the importance of sleep in feeling young, which has been linked to better mental and physical health.
After the break, lenders are issuing fewer ultra-long mortgages. Canada's bank watchdog touts a sizable drop in home loans longer than 35 years.
We're up significantly in Toronto in terms of the carjacking and the home invasions for the key fobs.
Updating our top stories as the trend of car thefts continues, Toronto police announced they've laid 150 charges in connection with Project Paranoid, an undercover car theft investigation that stretched across the GTA.
My heart is broken for these families. We made a commitment to them that I said we would use every resource, air, land, and sea, for the search and rescue.
A recovery effort continues tonight to find the bodies of 6 construction workers missing since the collapse of a massive bridge in Baltimore. This as investigators work to piece together the moments before a cargo ship slammed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge early Tuesday morning.
The defense lawyer for Umar Zameer is suggesting police made up key witness testimony. Zamir is charged with first-degree murder in the death of Toronto Police Constable Jeffrey Northrup. The officer died after being struck by a vehicle in the underground parking garage under City Hall in 2021. Police claim Zamir deliberately ran down Northrup, though his lawyer is pointing to inconsistencies between police testimony and video evidence.
Remember to keep up to date day and night through our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca, and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you ever have a news tip, photos, or video breaking news, let us know.
In business tonight, the price of gold continues to soar. With more, here's Paul Bagnall of B&M Bloomberg.
The price of gold rose close to a record high today as gold traders looked ahead to the release on Friday of key inflation-related data in the United States. The price has soared since early October on anticipation of cuts to interest rates by the U.S. Federal Reserve Board. Lower rates would likely put downward pressure on the U.S. dollar, and a weak greenback has historically been positive for the price of gold. Today, gold traded to nearly $2,213 U.S. dollars per ounce. Let's take a look at some of the closing market numbers for today. The Canadian dollar was little changed at 73.7 cents U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude oil was priced at $81.35 U.S. per barrel, down 27 cents. Western Canadian Select, the Canadian grade of heavy oil, was priced at $68.20 U.S. per barrel, down 9 cents. As for stock markets, the S&P TSX Composite Index in Toronto finished at its highest closing value ever, 22,107 points, up by close to 1 percentage point. That's the latest in business. I'm Paul Bagnall at B&M Bloomberg.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
The watchdog for Canada's banks says lenders are getting the problem of ultra-long mortgage terms under control. As buyers took on large home loans during the pandemic, many were hit hard by rising payments as interest rates rose. But depending on their mortgage terms, some people saw their amortizations go up. That's the length of time over which the payments are made. Well, the Office of the Superintendent of Financial Institutions says banks now have about $220 billion in mortgages with payment periods over 35 years. That is down from around $300 billion at the phenomenon's height.
While Ottawa and Queen's Park butt heads over affordable housing, the Prime Minister is promising new supports for renters in the upcoming federal budget.
The proposals are aimed at gaining back younger voters who polls show are turning away from the Liberals. CTV's Annie Bourgeois-Oliver has the latest.
Just under 3 weeks from Budget Day, and already the Liberal government is signaling young people and renters will be prioritized.
It's about changing the rules of a game in a way that meets young people where they are and responds to their hopes and dreams for the future.
In a bid to attract millennials and Gen Z voters whose support has dropped in recent polls, the Prime Minister today revealed rental help is on the way in the form of a new Canadian Renters' Bill of Rights, a new legal aid fund meant to protect tenants against rent evictions and bad landlords, and a change to ensure a credit score takes on-time rent payments into consideration when applying for a mortgage.
It does make sense. We know that when a bank is going to issue a mortgage, they're going to be looking at qualification factors for that consumer. One of those factors is going to be credit history.
More renters means more rental units need to be built, and the CMHC says that shift is happening. Last year, 137,915 new units were built in Canada's 6 largest cities, and for the first time, 42% of all new apartments were built as rentals.
There's huge demand for rentals. I think single detached is just coming out of reach. It's becoming unaffordable. It's practically impossible to build those in city centers anymore.
But while the number of purpose-built rentals is surging, single-family home construction is down, and overall, new home construction is stagnant.
It's very difficult to find projects where the math works these days.
The CMHC anticipates that fewer condos and apartments will be built this year due to soaring construction costs and high interest rates. Annie Bergeron-Oliver, CTV News, Ottawa.
Disney and the state of Florida have reached a settlement in a legal dispute over the future of Walt Disney World. The dispute began 2 years ago when Florida Governor Ron DeSantis took over the board that governs the district where Disney's theme park is located. That move followed the company's criticism of Florida's so-called Don't Say Gay law. That legislation bans classroom lessons on sexual orientation and gender identity and was championed by the Republican governor. The district had effectively been controlled by Disney itself for almost 5 decades.
Still ahead tonight, it's one of the most famous scenes in film history. Find out how much someone was willing to pay for the door from Titanic.
Tonight, the search for answers and bodies in the Baltimore bridge collapse.
My heart is broken for these families.
Divers scour murky waters as investigators examine the black box from the doomed cargo ship. That story and more later on CTV National News.
And a reminder, the CTV News at 6 podcast is available as a download every weeknight. And a special What's Up to those of you listening to the newscast live on News Talk 1010.
One of the most famous pieces of wood in Hollywood history has been sold for a rather hefty price at auction.
It brought me to you. And I'm thankful for that, Rose.
Who could forget the scene? The piece of wood that was apparently big enough to save Rose, but not Jack in Titanic, sold for more than $700,000 US. The panel is usually called a door, but the auctioneer says it was technically part of the door frame.
Well, you know, everyone's got that big movie they've never seen. I've never seen Titanic.
You've never seen Titanic.
But you know what you're going to do over the next couple of days, maybe over the weekend, although the weather will be nice.
You got a long
Hopefully,
weekend.
hopefully.
I'm just saying, it's iconic. Hopefully the forecast is iconic for people too. It's going to be nice as we head into the Easter weekend. We had snow a little while ago, we had rain, and now we're settling into a really stable air mass and a beautiful forecast as we head into the next couple of days. Still some cloud cover out there right now, but overall really nice if you want to get out for a walk this evening. Southwesterly wind, a little breezy right now, but overall it's not. It's still relatively mild right across the province. Now, into the day tomorrow, a little more sunshine into the second half of it, but light wind, lots of sunshine. You can't complain. And by the time we get to Friday, Good Friday, a great Friday, a very seasonal forecast.
Love it. Thank you, Jess. That's it for us, but be sure to join Omar Sashadina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and all of us here at CTV News, thank you for watching and have a great night.
Listen to